Now let's look at some vocabulary which is important and useful for the reflective practitioner to employ during the writing in a journal, in a professional development journal, for example. At this point, we can look at some suggestions for what you could actually include as part of your reflective writing. But what we must remember, these are at this point, these are only suggestions. There are obviously a lot of other types of vocabulary and language structures that you could use. I like to think of the examples here as a framework, a starting point for you as a teacher and for you to develop your own style as a reflective writer. So what's useful to remember is that when we're talking about things which have happened to us, to other people, we tend to talk in the past tense. And if we are talking about theories, then we tend to talk in the present tense. So it's useful to remember this simple distinction between what we're actually talking about. So let's look at some examples. If we're looking at interpreting what has happened in the classroom, we could start with sentences, for example, for me, the most, and then words like meaningful or significant or important. Such vocabulary here places the stress, the importance of the particular event, whether it was useful or whether it was significant, whether it was relevant to you in some way. And then the rest of the sentence can go on to talk about whether it was particular experiences or elements of the experience or particular issues or ideas that came up during the teaching. This then leads the sentence into reflecting on the reason for these feelings, or in other words, what actually happened. So you can see a useful structure there, and it gives some key words which focus on particular aspects of the experience. For example, in interpretation, we can also place the experience within a particular time frame. We can say previously, for example, in other words, reflecting back on other similar experiences. Or we can take it to the other extreme, later, or in other words, placing the experience at the end of some sort of teaching episode. Finally, we can think of the question as raising other questions or helping us think through or understand the responses that we have, the feelings that we have in relation to what has happened in the classroom. We can, as part of the interpretation, actually think of comparing and contrasting experiences. And so a good language structure here to help us think through this would be to start a sentence with the words alternatively or equally. And then this helps us lead into a modal type of thinking where we're saying words like might or could be. And finally then, trying to make connections with what could be the reasons for those by using words like because or related to. So you can see there's a connection, a flow of thinking through the vocabulary that we're using. And in terms of interpretation, we can also focus on this comparison and contrasting aspect of the reflection simply by saying this is similar to or this is not similar to. Very simple language structure to use, but it very much helps the reflective practitioner focus their thinking on particular aspects of a teaching episode. Unlike this, this is where we're focusing on a particular contrasting point from previous experience. This is actually drawing on past experience, past events, and looking at it from the other side of the coin, a different viewpoint. So reflective writing can be quite straightforward if you give yourself some nice language, some nice simple language structures to use, and not to get bogged down too much in the spelling or the grammar. What's important is the fact that writing is reflective, and by using particular vocabulary, particular words, that can help your thinking processes much more. What I would say is that these are just examples, and do not just rely on these only. As I said earlier, use them as a starting point and develop your own writing style as a reflective practitioner. The important thing is to remember that what you will be doing is supporting your thinking and not just writing a diary.